All right, hi everyone, this is Katie from MobileCause. We're going to get started here and go over the higher education webinar. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. There is a question box throughout, so during this webinar, if you have any questions about what the presenter is talking about or things that you'd like to discuss, just feel free to type them in the box. We have Sarah, who I believe some of you have worked with in the past. She's on hand to help answer those questions. So she'll be responding to those questions throughout the webinar. And if you do have questions for the presenter or somebody else, she'll send them up and we'll make sure to get those answered for you. We are also recording this webinar, and we will send it out to everybody tomorrow once we have it uploaded and everything. So if you have other coworkers or people who weren't able to make it today, we will send you a copy of this webinar to have for your records. And then we will also send out the slide deck as well, so you can take a look at that more thoroughly if you wanted to look at something more specific. So again, any questions that you have, just feel free to type them in the chat box. We do have Sarah on hand to help answer those, and we'll have our presenters answer anything further. And then we do have a recording of the webinar, which we'll be sending out tomorrow with the slides. But without further ado, we'll get started. So today for our agenda, we're doing a pretty high-level overview of MobileCause and the tools that are available to you. So we'll be going over each tool within MobileCause and just generally explaining how it's used in case you're not familiar with it. Some of you may be more familiar than others. So we'll just make it sure it's clear how it can be used and how it works in general. And then we'll give a case study from a university that has used it, just explaining how it's worked for them and how that's gone. So that is our general agenda today, and we do have a few presenters here. So again, my name is Katie. I've worked with some of you before. I am one of the customer success managers here who helps clients. And we do have a speaker from Notre Dame today. Unfortunately, our speaker from USC could not make it. There was a last-minute emergency. But Patrick from Notre Dame is here. And Patrick, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Oh, could you just introduce yourself for everybody?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Patrick. I work in annual giving. I'm very involved with our MobileCause efforts, specifically because I work a lot with undergraduate donations in our senior legacy.
Awesome, thank you, Patrick. But yeah, so again, if you have any questions for Patrick or myself throughout this webinar, just feel free to type them in the chat box. But with that, we'll get going, just discussing the different tools that are available to you and the case studies that are kind of behind them. So the first one that we want to start with is online giving, which is pretty much the kind of the basic part of MobileCause. So online giving is just referring to donation forms that you can customize into any tool that you'd like. So you can turn them into ticketing forms, you can embed them in your social media page, you can share them over email or Facebook, however you'd like to share them. But they're very easily customizable to adapt to any campaign that you're doing. And then they also, most importantly, adapt to any device. So you'll see on the example here, the forms easily adapt to a cell phone, a tablet, or a desktop. So no matter where your constituents are, they can easily make a donation, and you can collect any information you need. And this is important because if you have a form that adapts to the device, it makes it significantly easier to turn for conversions. So, because if the form is hard to complete, then people are less likely to complete the form. It's just that simple. So that's the basis of MobileCause, is just these simple forms that adapt to everywhere, and then you can turn them into anything you want, from surveys to volunteer signups to just general donation forms. And then we also have the option for people to text to them as well. So again, people can get to them wherever they want, and you can turn them into anything that you'd like. So with that, we're going to go into a couple case studies of how these have been used. And we have the first one from Patrick at Notre Dame and how they used it with their senior legacy. So Patrick, if you could tell us a little bit more about how this has worked for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, just a brief overview of what it was. It was a party on the field that was hosted in the spring for soon-to-be graduating seniors. And we encouraged everyone to go ahead and pledge to the senior legacy, which is our giving for the first few years after graduation. And so we encouraged everyone to pledge, and then everyone who did pledge received a text message from us inviting them to the party on the field. And that's the message that you see there on the left. And so the obvious key to getting them to come was telling them that Manti Te'o and Coach Kelly were going to be there. But it was great because then we already had their mobile number, so we already had them in the MobileCause system so we could start communicating with them. We sent them the initial invite, and then on the day of, we sent them another, just a short, like 5-second iMovie video sort of teasing the event to them. And then during the event, our speakers, every speaker who was featured, Manti, Coach Kelly, and then an individual from development here as well, encouraged them to donate. Some more straightforward than others, but all of the students seemed to react very well to it because we made it known ahead of time, like you're coming because you've already pledged to give. So they understand that there's some sort of giving message that will be pitched to them during the event. And then we also handed out little business card sized handouts with the information on how to text to give, as well as we had a full staff there in case anyone had any questions. And then you'll see the thing that we really tried to push and we highlighted on the forum was we inserted a little image there underneath monthly to encourage monthly or reoccurring gifts. And we did have a pretty high success rate with that. And so those are still coming in, which is great. A few just overall learning points. We should have probably included a URL to the giving form on the little card that we handed out to them, just in case they wanted to visit that later for any reason. And then also, we could explore encouraging donations ahead of time, or making it more straightforward even before the event happens that, yes, you've pledged to give, but we're also asking you to go ahead and fulfill that commitment. And then in terms of like unsubscribers or anything that we've had happen after the fact, we did have a few unsubscribers since the event, but not a large number at all. And then anyone whose recurring donation has failed, we get a notice through MobileCause, and then we've been able to follow up with all of them on a one-on-one basis. And that's been great because that's allowed our director of the Senior Legacy Giving to go ahead and establish a relationship with these individuals, and oftentimes it's led to them actually going ahead and signing up for recurring gifts again. We find that a lot of times, especially with the seniors, the issue is the billing information has changed on their credit card, or they have a new card because they're no longer on their parents' staff anymore. So we've been able to establish a relationship there, follow up, and everything through MobileCause has been fantastic, especially getting those notices if anything goes wrong at all with the donation that we're expecting.
Awesome. And so just a follow-up question about that, because it's really interesting how you guys use text messages to coordinate with this party on the field. Did you guys feel like the text messages helped bring more people to the event overall, or how did that affect attendance?
I would say absolutely. We did hear just anecdotal evidence from multiple students who worked with our office that they really actually loved the text and that they were then able to just go ahead and copy it on their phones and send it to their friends. That way they were able to go ahead and spread our message in a very organic and natural way.
Oh, that's great. So did you see like a little bit of an increase from what you guys had RSVP'd beforehand then?
Yes, we did. On the day of, there was quite an increase actually. We experienced a decent amount of folks just showing up and saying like, I got this text message, or I saw this message on my friend's phone, I want to come, how do I come? And so then they could fill out the pledge form right there and then come on into the field.
That's awesome. That's very cool. And then the other thing that you talked about that I think is it's so interesting is your monthly donation is how you guys highlighted it, because I know for a lot of universities that's a big thing is getting people started on recurring donations. How you have at the top it says choose monthly donation amount, then it says click on monthly below, And we don't have it highlighted here, but what I enjoy is at the bottom, right before it says submit, it says, if you haven't chosen monthly yet, there's still an opportunity to click it. Please go back to the top. It's just kudos to you guys for really getting people to push them towards a recurring donation. It looks like it's been very successful.
Yeah, it has, and that's something that we're starting to do with not just our Senior Legacy campaign, but more campaigns across using MobileCause and just in all other forms. Because obviously, especially with this population, they're used to everything coming out of their account automatically, bills and donations and whatever. So we're just trying to fit in with their daily and weekly behaviors outside of either giving.
Cool. And just one last question from an audience member. So do you have any idea of how many people overall who attended your event ended up completing a donation?
I can check on the exact amount, but of the 263, I believe that about 200 of those actually ended up following through on the commitment.
Okay.
And then the 63 who did not, we could still follow up with them in text. And so that's not to say that they haven't since donated, because we followed up with them in text messages and reached to establish relationships with them outside of outside of the services through MobileCause. So they have donated through our native giving platform.
Got it. Okay. So overall, were you guys pretty happy with the fulfillment rate and engagement that you got at from the seniors in terms of them completing donations?
We really were. We were. And actually, so one big key learning point that I left off was on the day of the event, we didn't have the cell network boosting capabilities essentially powered up and in use in the stadium, and so cell phone service was a bit of an issue, and so that could definitely be a learning point for you whenever you're planning something like this. Make sure that you're going to have plenty of network reception or a great Wi-Fi signal, so everyone in attendance can actually complete the donation.
Awesome. Great learning point. Thank you so much, Patrick. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's how Notre Dame used it for their senior party on the field. We also had USC who used their online forms for a brick naming campaign. So again, unfortunately, they were not able to make it today due to a last-minute emergency that came up. But I will be presenting this on their behalf. So basically, what they did is they were focusing on a fundraising for a building that was coming up on campus for their Marshall School of Business. So there was a fairly large donations that needed to be raised, or just funding to build this building, right? I'm sure you guys have dealt with that before, where they needed about several $1 million in order to add additions to this building. So they were their goal was to focus on the areas where they didn't quite have donations yet, the areas where the ongoing support for the building. That was their goal, is to mean they had to raise a certain amount of money to help support that. So they had the brick naming fundraising campaign going. And their internal fundraising team used this with targeted donors. So it wasn't so much a page that was shared over their social media, but it was more when their fundraising team was going out to talk to alumni or friends of the university who had given in the past, and when they were developing that personal relationship and talking through what the university needed, they would then be able to bring this form up to ask people to donate. So they could bring it up on the computer if they were near one, but also if people were out and about, maybe it was a more casual conversation where people were getting coffee, the donors could also text in to get it directly on the form, so that no matter where people were in their conversation or where that conversation was taking place, they could easily get this form accessible to the people who were raising money for this. And their big target was actually alumni of the business school. And what they found is that the business school alumni actually had a certain appreciation for it, because their business school is very focused on innovation and finding new technology and incorporating that. So the business school alumni who were having these conversations really enjoyed the idea of texting in and how it was so easy for them to use. So they had that they could text in, get the form on their cell phone, and then the one brick was $1,000, and they could, if they wanted to have more, they certainly could. But then the form was pretty easily customized from there, so that it just started off at $1,000. If they wanted to add more, they could. And then they could type in how much was wanted or what they wanted to say on the line. So they could put in the information that should be on the first line, second line, and even choose where they wanted it on the field, or sorry, on the plaza near the hall. So that was, everything was taken care of on one form, super easy, super quick for these alumni. So no matter where they were having the conversations, it was very simple for them to take care of. So this project, it continued on for about 6 months, was the main goal. You'll see on there it ended at about December 2016. They saw a lot of success with it. They were very happy overall, just in terms of how easy it was for their internal fundraisers, but also their volunteer board. The form just made it so much easier when they were having conversations with these alumni that they could easily pull up this form or text in to get this form and then complete it right then and there. So it didn't have to be a follow-up meeting or anything like that. In the moment, they could have everybody donate, and they saw a lot of success with it. You'll see over $130,000 raised to help support the building long-term. So this was a successful campaign for USC, and USC just wanted to make sure it was clear that this is just one example of how they've used it with their capital campaigns to make it easier to engage with donors, but also just make the logistics of how they're bringing in that data, how they're interacting with donors so much easier, so that it's one quick and easy swoop, and it's not necessarily a bunch of follow-up meetings or finding information later. They can have these meetings with these alumni, with these potential donors, get the information and have that and focus on relationship building long term. So with that, the next tool that we want to move on to, again, that was our online giving. So now we're kind of building off of that to one of our more popular tools within MobileCause, which is our fundraising event thermometer. And this is probably, all of you guys have seen it. It's a pretty simple tool. The idea is you can have a thermometer that is projected at an event, and it shows a goal. And then people can text in to show the overall progress towards the goal. So they can text in their donation amounts, and then everything will scroll in real time. So we see this extremely popular with all of the sectors of clients who use MobileCause. They use it at galas, luncheons, and what we see in general is it helps increase donations because people see how their gift is a part of the larger total. So whereas before they might have come, they knew they were going to give because they knew it was a fundraising event, but now that they see how their donation impacts the overall total, maybe they'll move from a $25 gift to a $50 gift, and just helps increase it a little bit. So we see about donations can go up by about 20 to 30% when you're using the fundraising thermometer, and people also love the idea of seeing their names scroll. So it's a way of thanking them immediately in real time. So a lot of success with it. And we also then, once people text in, they get that donation form so they can complete it right then, the donation right then and there. It can go into your bank account. But they also, if for some reason, maybe you throw too good of a party, they aren't able to make the donation in that moment, they will receive 3 reminder text messages, 1 day, 4 days, and 8 days after the event to complete the donation. So again, just making it easier for you, and we've seen a lot of success with it for across all the different sectors. And how we've seen it used for universities is really specifically with reunion events. It is one example. We have seen it at other events. And the story we have here is from MIT. They used the fundraising thermometer at their 2016 reunion events, where they basically, each class was able to text in. So all you had to do was text in your graduation year to the number 91999, and you would get a donation form on your cell phone. So that was put in pamphlets and just advertised with the speakers at the events to make sure that people knew that they were able to donate. But the big push where they specifically used the fundraising thermometer was with young alumni. So people who hadn't necessarily completed their gift yet or hadn't gotten engaged on a recurring basis with MIT. So that's where they focused their fundraising thermometer, was at that dinner. so that they could project the screen and they had people's names scroll. MIT in this case chose to not show how much people were donating and just show that people were participating. That was their goal, was just more participation than necessarily showing the amounts. But they saw a lot of success with it, and they saw a much higher engagement with their young alumni in terms of them texting in and starting to complete gifts. So they were very excited about that. So their young alumni had the largest participation because they used that fundraising thermometer and really created that moment of giving where everybody could see who else was participating. So there might be a little bit of social pressure, but it made for a very fun, very interactive experience. So young alumni was very successful, but they also saw donations come in from all of the different classes because it made it very easy for them to participate. And overall, they actually had a very high fulfillment rate at about 94%. So that is, we usually see with fundraising, the fundraising thermometer, we average at about 87%. So in this context, we saw one of the higher fulfillment rates there, and that's just because of how they were encouraging it and the atmosphere that they were bringing in to show people how they were part of the overall total. All right, I think we just have a couple questions here about how the fundraising thermometer works. So there is a question about how keywords work in terms of people texting in. So if in this case, for example, with the MIT example, they're using the keyword 1991 for people from the class of 1991 to text in to donate. So if one organization is using that keyword, then another organization can't use it. But in this case, there's still lots of options for other keywords. For other universities, we've seen them use their mascot, or if there's nicknames for the different classes, they'll use that. We've also seen different professors where they might compete against each other, so it's almost like a vote for your favorite professor option. In this case, MIT chose to use the years of the class of the graduating classes as the gift, but you could choose anything that you think goes well with your reunion events, whether there's a specific theme or maybe highlighting a specific professor or a specific endowment program. Those are all options for you, and that can be a great way to target your keyword so that it's engaging people, because the keyword is just, it can be a fun thing for people to text in to get them engaged. Again, if you do have more questions, feel free to just type those in the chat box here. We're happy to get those answered and going for you. And just to highlight their form, they kept their form pretty simple for their gift. You'll see what it looked like when they texted in. So people could text in their keyword or their graduation year. They got a little pledge. Plus, and then once people clicked on their donation forms, they just chose to have the option where there's a gift designation so that they could designate to a specific program. All right. So with that, the next tool that we're going to go into is talking about crowdfunding, this is where some cool opportunities have come in from various universities. So the idea of crowdfunding is that we have you have a landing page that people can then share over social media with friends and families to get them to donate. So we've had in the past different athletic teams will have crowdfunding pages to raise money for their specific team. We've also had different clubs sign up where they can raise teams. We've also had it as an overall annual giving program for universities. But a pretty simple concept, crowdfunding is creating a landing page. It shows your goal, and then people have the option to make a donation. They can share it. They can even join a team if they'd like to as well. And you do also have the texting option with this as well, so people can text to receive this, or when people are sharing it, they can send it as a text message to their friends and family to help engage them and get that very specific connection to how they can to get donations. And the crowdfunding, that example that we have, was actually extremely successful for a University of Southern California. And I'm sure this is a similar use case that you guys have all seen, where they used it during their day of giving. So most universities host a day of giving of some kind. USC certainly isn't any different. So as a part of their program in 2016, they decided to use crowdfunding as a part to engage their volunteer fundraisers to help raise money on their behalf. So they worked with different they worked with alumni, faculty, parents as well, people who were highly interested in raising money, and just they recruited them and gave them individual fundraising pages to share to bring in donations from their networks, from their friends and their family. So overall, they got over 60 fundraisers, which they were delighted about because this was the first year that they had recruited volunteer fundraisers. So they were concerned. They weren't sure how many people would get engaged, and they considered over 60 fundraisers a big success for them. It was much higher engagement than they thought they were going to get. So they were just excited by the number of people who were signing up to help. And then those people each got their own individual page to share. It was customized to represent the specific programs or the specific goals that they were, or why that specific person was such a supporter of USC. And then they were able to share it with friends and family. And they actually, even though their day of support was in May, the fundraisers could raise money all throughout April. So that then the day of support was just the final big kind of come together and celebration of all the money had been raised. And they saw that from their fundraisers, they raised over $50,000, which they were extremely happy about. They actually said that the volunteer fundraisers were the third most successful part of their day of support, which they were not expecting at all. The other two, the most successful parts were the ones that you expect, the email fundraising, as well as their direct mail pieces to alumni and faculty. But then this came in third with a significant amount of money raised. And what they found too is that the money raised was from about 50% of it came from new donors. And we see that a lot with our with crowdfunding campaigns because it's people that are coming in, people are engaged with their friends and family. So if my friend is able to tell their story of why they're so excited about USC and why that was impactful for them, and specifically, especially when talking about specific programs, that means even though I may not have gone to USC or I may not be associated with it, I want to help that friend and I want to support that friend's passion. So having them share the story really brought in a significant number of new donors that were not yet USC donors. So they were very excited about that. But it also helped them because since this was being shared by alumni and faculty, they found that it helped them update their records because it was telling, if it was an alumni sharing, their network was probably other alumni that they may have lost in the shuffle who had been previous donors, but they had lost contact information due to moves or other things like that, where you just lose people's contact information. So they found it helpful too because they were able to re-engage with these people through these personal connections and get them back into donating for USC and update their constituent records in their database. So overall, they were just very excited, just unexpectedly excited by the success because it was so successful that they were able to get so many people to help fundraise and so much money raised for them, as well as bringing in new donors and updating their database from other donors who had lapsed for various reasons. So an overall successful campaign, and their average donation was about $130. And here are just a couple questions about crowdfunding. So can you embed a video on the first page of crowdfunding? And the answer is absolutely. We're actually updating our crowdfunding pages so that you'll have multiple designs to look through. That should be out here pretty soon. And so then you'll be able to, you can absolutely put a video on that first page to make it very interactive and very fun, showing what your day of giving or what your athletic teams might be up to. So that's not a problem at all. And if you haven't already, I would definitely recommend, if you want to embed video or are thinking of using this for your day of support, make sure you reach out to your customer success manager and they'll be happy to talk about it more specifically, how you can make this work for that campaign. All right, so with that, we're going to move on to another, one of our more popular, or one of, I think, our more useful tools that is also a little bit underutilized is actually using mobile communication, so sending text messages. So we talked about it a little bit with Notre Dame, but this idea that people can text into you to get items, whether it's donation forms or crowdfunding pages, so you can acquire new mobile numbers that way, but we can also send text messages out. And this is important because text messages have a 98% open rate and 90% are read within 3 minutes. So it's a great way to send immediate information and get people very excited about what they're doing or what you're doing and how they can be engaged with it, especially with your alumni, because cell phone number is actually one of the few things that people have that is not likely to change. So alumni move around a lot, but their cell phone number doesn't change. They'll always have that. So it makes it very easy to send text messages to them and engage with them and know that they're going to read it as well. So we see across the different sectors, when you're adding text messaging to your campaigns, we see an overall bump in social media as well as email engagement, because it's like the text message is kind of sending the lead to the story. So it's people are excited, people are engaged, and then they want to learn more through your social media campaigns as well as your email campaigns. So it's something that can really help complement that engagement and encourage people to give donations. So we have a couple examples here, and now you won't have to hear me talk anymore, but I'm going to bring Patrick back in to talk. Notre Dame has used text messages in a variety of ways, and so he's going to tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, thank you. And so the first example you'll see here is holiday messaging. So the first snow at Notre Dame is always a big deal. And so we just had this typed up and queued up, ready to go. So whenever the first snow came, we could take a picture that had been captured, put it on our Instagram, and then go ahead and send it out to. And we sent it to all of the senior legacy people who had subscribed to that list previously, linking to our Instagram. And our goal was sort of, one, just a nice touch from campus to say hi from the university, but then also to get them to start engaging with us on social, because we hadn't done a great job at that point with actually engaging our students or soon-to-be graduates on social media. And so this was a great way to start getting people in the loop. And we did see an immediate spike in followers. And we actually saw a few people that then were sharing just screenshots of the text, like, this is awesome, just got this from my university. So it was a really cool campaign, and it's something that we're still following up with these individuals through text, since they already demonstrated that's how they prefer to communicate. We're taking advantage of that for sure, while being cognizant of the fact that we don't want to text them all the time.
That's great to know, and I just want to follow up on that a little bit, because I think a lot of questions that come to mind with universities is they're nervous about sending that first text. But it sounds like you guys have had overall just very positive feedback on people receiving text messages. Was there any hesitation to whether you should start to engage with people over text message?
There really was. There definitely was, and it was a debate that went on for a little while. But at the end of the day, the way we approached it was we gave these individuals an opportunity to just go to like a donate form and make a donation, or they also had the opportunity to go ahead and text in and then subscribe for updates from us. And with every text message that gets sent from the MobileCause platform, they have the opportunity to opt out. And so we looked at the people that hadn't opted out as people that were interested in receiving text from us, and that's how they prefer to communicate. So we chose to take advantage of that, and it's been really successful for us. And it's something that we're now doing with like every MobileCause campaign that we have. We're following up with a thank you or another touch from campus via text message, since they've clearly demonstrated that's how they prefer to hear from us.
That's really cool. And then you guys have had a pretty low unsubscribe rate. Has that remained consistent across your other campaigns too?
Yes, it has. Yeah. Short answer, but yeah, they haven't. I think the key part is we've been very deliberate with what we've been sharing. And we try to make it more, especially for the individuals who've already donated to us. We make the text more just stewardship pieces, more just feel-good pieces from the university. So something that stays away from any hot-button topics or anything like that. Like the image there, if you graduated from the university, you're more than likely not going to unsubscribe if we send you a picture of like one of the most iconic places here. So that's the way we've approached all of our texting.
Yeah, it's a really cool message, and I just want to say kudos to you because this follows best practices so well in terms of having your name in there, but also having it be kind of funny and cute, but also just so specific, and directing them to social media. Like you said, you got a bump in social media engagement, which is really cool. It's really great.
Thank you.
And yeah, and you have because you guys have just done a great job text messaging, so you have another cool campaign that you've done with your alumni. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, absolutely. And so this we ran with our alumni relations department here. And it was great. It's obviously a big time of year leading up to Christmas for a lot of Notre Dame graduates and people who went here. So we provided the opportunity to participate in 28 Days of Peace, obviously focused around Advent, and we just wanted to find another way to reach out to people, and thought that this MobileCause platform would be exactly what we were looking for. And it turns out that it was. We still saw like a very low unsubscribe rate, and I think that just goes along with the previous slide. It's because we were very upfront about what we were going to be sharing with them. And then every text after that was pre-scheduled, so like from our end, it was not a heavy lift at all. We just had to schedule 28 messages and then sort of just sit back and watch them go out. And so that was great. And then just every text along those 28 days, it was able to follow the theme very, very precisely and deliver something that people are actually looking for from us. And so we found that to be a very successful campaign.
And was this because I know on the website there's a couple different ways they could be engaged, like they could get emails. There was also just a general website that they could come visit. So was this 28 Days of Peace, was that a a campaign that you had run in the past?
I believe so. There was. They did like some similar things in the past, but this was definitely a new way of approaching getting the message out to people. And this was a more robust way. So this every single day touch that we went with this year, I believe was slightly different than previous. Previously, we just send out not as frequent of communications, but we thought that especially through email and then like most definitely through text, that if someone signs up for a daily communication, they're still interested in hearing from you. And so that was a way sort of to safeguard ourselves from just blasting out this 28 Days of Peace to a really broad population that maybe wouldn't be interested in. So we really like this because it allowed our alumni a chance to self-identify and say, yes, please text me every day. And we wish that all of our alumni would say, yes, please text me every day. So it was great.
That's awesome. Yeah, because what I found so interesting when I was looking through your campaign is that you just had it, people could be involved via email, or they could also sign up for text messages. And so when I was going through and looking through how many people had texted in, it was just kind of funny because you guys never went below a certain amount. You only gained subscribers. So that's on here. I say you only lost a few subscribers each day because your list really only grew over time. And at the end of the campaign, your list was larger than it was at the start because people just kept texting in, which I just found very interesting. I don't know if you had any other comments about that. But.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that just goes into, we were also sharing all of this on social. And so that was great. And so then people that maybe didn't see the original opportunity could see it on social and then follow up and say, oh, okay, I do want to receive these texts. And then it's funny because we've actually seen a growth in our previous list too. The senior legacy list has only gone up from that event. And we can, as far as we can tell, we can really only attribute that to to the text that we have sent out then later to that senior legacy group, and them having the ability to just copy and forward that to their friends, because then we, like every time we send a text out, we do see more people subscribe, and that's pretty unique, I would say, but it's been great.
That's awesome. Yeah, kudos to you guys. This is it's a very cool campaign, and especially considering you were texting people every day. I know that's always a concern. I mean, you had such a low unsubscribe rate and really high engagement, and that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. So those are all the case studies that we wanted to go over today and just give you an overview. So if you do have any last minute questions, I'd just love for people to make sure you type them in right now for Patrick. If you have any questions for him about how this has worked for him, or anything about the USC or MIT case studies. But yeah, this webinar, as people are typing those in, this has been recorded, so we will be sending it out to everybody with this slide deck as well, so you can share it with any coworkers, and hopefully you have found this helpful and can take some of these learnings to your own campaign. But Patrick, is there anything that you'd like to add or anything we didn't cover on here that you want to make people aware of?
I would say the one thing, you touched on it very briefly at the beginning, but I'd say just a huge overall benefit of this platform is the ability to make very custom, mobile-friendly giving forms. And it's something that we're doing more and more as we have like some student fundraisers and stuff that our office helps out with, or even like Reunion here coming up in a few months. The ability to do that, and then the tracking that comes along with it is absolutely fantastic. And especially for this young alumni population, like you touched on earlier, and that we've seen in our senior legacy campaign. But the fact that they can go ahead and sign up for these monthly gifts, and then if it fails, we know immediately, and we know the best way to contact them is just by calling them on their cell phone or by shooting them a text. And that's been extremely beneficial for us, because more and more we're seeing people maybe ignore the email or open the email and not respond. And so I think that a text just seems so much more personal. And that's really helped us on the relationship side of things as well, knowing that, like them knowing that like we're still here and we still like care about how they're doing has been really beneficial, and something that is only made possible through the MobileCause platform.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. And again, it doesn't look like there's any more questions here, but I just want to thank Patrick, you for attending. I really appreciate your insight and sharing your campaigns. This was I know this is helpful for us, and I certainly hope everybody else got something else out of it. And thank you everybody for attending. We will be following up again with emails with the link to this video and the slide as well. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to contact your customer success manager, or if you don't know who that is, feel free to email me. My name is Katie, Katie @mobilecause.com, and I'll get you connected and we'll get you taken care of. But thank you again for joining, and we'll be sending this out shortly.
Great. Thank you, Katie.